Hello to the side and back. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tokiku Uzuru, also known as Toki, and today we're going to be starting our tea series, where I go ahead and talk to you about one of the things that I drink every day, tea. And I will be explaining why tea has to deal with the opium drug war that happened between Europe, specifically England, and China. So we start off with where did tea originate? And geographically, Southeast Asia, specifically I think Southwest China, where the leaves that were growing there were specifically called Camellia sinensis, or green tea leaves. But the mythical origins of tea is relatively foggy. And for this video specifically, we're going to be going with the Chinese myth on the origins of tea, where a former Chinese emperor with this name, I don't want to go ahead and pronounce it wrong, so it's going to be here, was boiling water, and some breeze decided to go ahead and fly tea leaves of this specific variety into his boiling water. And at first he smelled it and it smelled delectable, so he decided to taste it, and he found out that it also had medicinal properties, as in like you could use it for medicine. So he tried testing it out, and that's also where the Chinese character for the word tea, or for the Chinese translation of tea, comes from. Now there was another or similar Chinese myth where it was a god of agriculture trying out different leaves and different plants to see what was poisonous and what wasn't poisonous, and anytime he dealt with something poisonous, he would go ahead and chew on tea leaves or Chinese tea leaves to act as an antidote to whatever poison he decided to put into himself. So then it took like widespread consumption during the Tang Dynasty, where Lu Yu, again, name right here, composed a book of sorts that was called, English translation, The Classic of Tea, where he talked about the types of teas, the usage for the teas, how they prepared it, how to prepare it, which is basically they turned it into a brick, and the benefits of drinking each tea. Then around the Song Dynasty, the tea preparation game was completely changed. And instead of just drinking green tea, they found several different ways of how to oxidize or ferment tea, and making even more different teas, but from the same leaf. So black tea, oolong tea, white tea, which I also think they call yellow tea. Different levels of oxidation, different levels of fermentation, same leaf. And this also brings in the Romantic Age of tea, where they reference tea in poetry, in art, in politics, and even in religion, where they would have tea ceremonies. So now we move on to the 13th century, where once again, they continue to change the game for tea making or preparing teas. And they end up making a powdered form of the green tea leaves, which they called matcha, and then sell to Japan. And as production, aka growing, of tea was trying to meet the demands from the emperors of all the dynasties, they had to go ahead and take all of their rice farmers and have them grow the tea leaves, which tea leaf growing is very rigorous, and they started to neglect their rice crops, which brought famine because there was no rice, because the rice farmers were taking care of the teas, which everything went downhill real fast. But then, of course, as Europe does, Europe ended up finding out about Chinese tea. And it didn't really kick on until the 17th century, where the Dutch East India Company brought over its first shipment of Chinese tea to Amsterdam. And it wasn't until Catherine of Braganza, a Portuguese princess we would call her, asked Charles II for tea and brought around the tea time thing in Great Britain. Now, of course, because Britain, England specifically, really likes taking control of everything, they decided, hey, we're going to take over the tea trade because we want to, and also we don't want to have to pay so much for it. So the first thing that they wanted to do was, because of the fact that they were running out of silver, they needed to find something else to trade with China so they can get the tea. And they chose Indian opium. And it worked. The Chinese got their opium, their morphine, and the British got their tea. Until China banned opium, yeeted it into whatever body of water they yeeted it into, and said, no, we ain't having this. And of course, Great Britain, specifically England, got mad and decided to go on a opium war. They demanded a war against China because China said no. And that war ended in a peace treaty, which China didn't like. But of course, everything can't be all sunshine and roses, because England thought that China broke their peace treaty and went to a second opium war with them, which also ended up in a peace treaty that China didn't like. So as China is broke and will no longer be able to hold the tea trade, because England powerful. I don't have anything else to say about that one. Where was I? England decided that they were going to send Robert Fortune into China to go ahead and figure out or find out their little tea secrets, and succeeded. He successfully infiltrated China and its tea secrets, in which they ended up bringing their tea secrets back to England, and England found a way to go ahead and use India as a place to grow their teas. Now, Great Britain, England, being in control of the tea trade, decides to go ahead and use New Amsterdam, aka New York, as another place to go ahead and have their tea trade, until America, specifically the US, thought they didn't like the taxation without representation thing, and decided to yeet the tea into the Boston River. Once again, someone yeeting something else that England gave them into the Boston River, into a specific body of ocean, saying, no, we don't like the way what you're doing, so we're gonna go ahead and just yeet your product into the water. And that also started another Revolutionary War. No big deal. Hamilton. Yeah. So that's another reason why the US specifically does not really drink tea that much, unless it's iced. Specifically Southern iced tea, which is really good. Probably too sweet for most people, but really good. It tastes like diabetes, but it's really good. And that's the history of tea. And now that I've gotten through that entire video, it's time for me to do the stereotypical YouTuber outro, where I, as a stereotypical YouTuber, will go ahead and tell you, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be notified of when I post. Comment down below if you've learned something new in this video, or you want to go ahead and know more about tea specifically, or the mystical side of everything that you use in general. And I will most definitely see you in the next video. This is Tokika, signing out.